Hi there YouTube friends, Carlos Arisate, and welcome back to Mom's Greek Kitchen, the channel where I teach you my mom's Greek recipes in her memory. Today we're making a very strong garlic sauce or dip called Skordalia. Skordalia. It's also called Greek mayonnaise, Skordalia sauce in Australia. It's like a Greek aioli. We use it a lot with fried fish. And horta, which are wild greens that are boiled and served as a vegetable. It's great as an accompaniment with any of the grilled meats, etc. It's a pretty simple recipe, but very tasty. So let's go into the kitchen and make it. See you in a minute. Alright, here are the basic ingredients that we need for our scordalia. We have some bread. You want white bread and you want stale bread. So I bought this a couple days ago and let it sit in a paper bag that it comes in for those days. So it's a little drier than, a nice fresh bread. You don't want it too fresh because it goes really mushy. You want an egg yolk, some salt, a whole head of garlic, lemon juice or vinegar or a combination of both, some water, and some olive oil. And that's basically it. Now in the old days, today we do it in a food processor, but in the old days, Mom would start it in this. So she would do the garlic with some salt, pounding it till it turned into a paste. And then she would transfer that paste to this. Oops, wrong way. And then she'd add her egg yolk to that mixture. And little by little she would add the bread, pounding until she got a nice smooth paste. And then, of course, adding the vinegar and the lemon juice and the water and the oil alternately, pounding the whole time until she had pretty much the full bowl. We're gonna not do that. These are probably about as old as I am, maybe a little bit older. I even know the bakery where Mom bought them originally. It's no longer there, but I know where it was. But these are at least as old as I am, probably a little bit older, like I said. So I don't want to risk damaging them any more than they already are. So I'm gonna do it in the food processor, which is also much easier. So our first step is to take the crust off of the bread. So basically I'm just going to cut the ends off and cut it in half, and then just trim the crust off without losing too much of the crumb of the bread. Now, if this was homemade, which is what Mom always used to make it out of, it would be much drier than this. But the same procedure was followed. So we're going to trim off all the crust. And then we're going to run the bread under the cold water tap and get it wet. And then let it sit for 5, 10, 15 minutes until it's all nice and tender. If the bread is really dry, of course you're going to have to soak it a bit longer. But this isn't that dry. It's hard to actually get really dry bread unless you make your own. And we don't eat that much at home for me to bother really. So whenever I have to make it, and I'm making this for Dad, I just go and buy a loaf and then let it sit. And it looks like I bought whole wheat by mistake, so it's not going to be the right color, but it should taste fine. That was silly. Good enough. All right, so I'm just going to run that under the tap, give it a squeeze or two in the water so that it actually absorbs, and then let it sit for 15 minutes or so, and I'll be back to continue. All right, we're back. So my bread here is soaked. I put it under the tap like I said, and now I'm going to squeeze it and remove any extra water. We just want it damp and moist. We don't want it soaking. And the same with the other one. Now, some people use boiled potato instead of the bread, but Mom always used bread. I think it was a way of using any stale bread that was left over. Not that there was always that much, since we all tended to eat a lot of bread. But potato is another option. I don't like the texture. I've tried it. It's a little slimier. This is a heartier sauce, or what you call it, texture, I guess. So let's put this aside here. So I've got, I peeled a head of garlic while I was waiting for the bread to soak. So I'm putting that into the bowl of my food processor, and I'm adding a couple of, I'm going to guess about half a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to start to process our garlic. Now, if I was doing something else, I would have the motor running before I added the garlic, but because this is going to be a pretty thick paste and it's going to grind for a long time, I don't need to worry about that. So basically, off you go and start grinding your garlic. So there we go, mostly chopped. So now we're going to start, I'm going to scrape down the garlic. So now we're going to start crumbling in the bread. And we're going to get about half of it in before we start adding other things. So we're just going to basically just break it off. Now the food processor does a lot of the work, so you don't have to be all that worried about size of the pieces. But if you're doing this by hand, like Mom used to, she used to crumble it quite small to give her a head start in the pounding. Alright, that's enough to start. I'm going to put the top back on, and I'm going to add the rest while the machine is running. That's right, this one doesn't run without this piece in. Just keep adding bits and pieces of your bread. Now, I have half of my bread in. I'm going to add my egg yolk. And I'm going to add a little bit of my water, which I've mixed with, so it's half a cup of water and half a cup of your acid. I actually have lemon and vinegar mixed because I had a lemon I needed to use up. But normally Mom used to use mostly vinegar. And now we'll continue adding the rest of the bread. Alright, let's take a peek. So as you can see inside, it's a pretty gloppy mixture. We're now going to thin it down, alternating olive oil and the water lemon juice or water vinegar mixture until we get basically a thick dipping consistency, like a mayonnaise kind of texture. You can go as thin or as thick as you like. Once it goes in the refrigerator, it will thicken a little bit, so keep that in mind. So now we're adding olive oil. More olive oil. All right, it's getting there. This is not really a recipe with measurements. Basically, you're going to go to where the texture that you like and the flavor that you like. So you're looking for a nice sharpness in the acid. You want the creaminess of the olive oil, of course, to get that emulsification. And the saltiness, and of course the garlic. You're going to get the garlic no matter what you do. But you're going to taste it and figure out how sharp or how mild you want the acid in it. Now we like it quite vinegary. That could do with a little bit more oil, I think. It all depends on how wet your bread is and how creamy you like it, basically. So I'm gonna add a little bit more vinegar water. And some more oil. Now, the only disadvantage the food processor has over the other method is that if you go too long, it heats up your mixture. And that, not that it's a bad thing, but it takes some of that strong garlic flavor and mellows it a little bit. So try not to let it go too long, yeah, basically you want to work pretty quickly, that's all. So I would say this could do with a little, just a little more of the vinegar water. It's a little thick. But the flavor's there. Actually just water, I think, because that's pretty strong in the vinegar. I'm just gonna pour in a little bit here. Alright, I think we are done. Yeah, so this is the texture I want, so that it will pour off of your spatula. Let me see if I can get that on camera so you guys can actually see that. Alright, so that's sort of what I want. So now we're going to put that in a container, cover it, and put it in the refrigerator, because it actually isn't good until the next day. It takes time for the garlic to really permeate. I mean, it's not like it's not strong now, but it will be so much better tomorrow. So let me get that out of the container here and I'll be right back. Now I'm just going to take it out of my food processor and put it in a container to go, because this is for Dad and he's at his hobby farm. So I'll be going and seeing him tomorrow. So a little treat for him because he loves this stuff. Let's get that off. And I apologize again, this should be a off-white color instead of this sort of oatmeal color, because I didn't realize I had bought a whole wheat bread instead of a white bread. So it would be off-white because of the olive oil. But if you're using like a vegetable oil, it would probably be a pretty white dip. So there we go. So if you love garlic and you like that burn from garlic, this is an excellent recipe for you to learn and make. And serve it next time you have barbecue, or next time you pan fry some nice fish. It's especially good with the white fishes. My parents always had it when Mom did, when she pan fried smelts, or if she did halibut or skate. It's good with salmon as well, but they tended to use this more on the, actually no, they used it on pretty much any time there was salt or fried fish on the table, or horta, which I told you were the wild greens that the Greeks love to eat. So I hope you try this. Let me know how it comes out for you. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let your friends know. And I hope I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.